Today, we are diving into a fundamental concept in JavaScript, scope. We are going to uncover the mystery of global, module, function, and block scope. Plus, we'll learn what happens when variables have the same name. So let's get started. The term scope in JavaScript defines the visibility of variables and functions in a particular part of your code. In other words, it determines the portion of the code where a variable or function can be accessed. When a variable is declared outside all functions or curly braces, it's said to have a global scope. This means it can be accessed from any part of the code, both inside and outside of functions. Let's see an example. Let's say we have a function, test function, that prints some string. Okay, and then we call test function and then run the program. So node index.js. Now, if we declare a global variable, so before the function, we have let global variable is equal to I am a global variable. It means we can access this variable from any part of the code, both inside and outside the function. So we can do console log global variable and then call the function which prints the global variable. Then also do console.log global variable. Now let's run the program. And you will see I am a global variable twice because we called the function which has access to the global variable, and then we also printed the global variable, and this current context also has access to the global variable. On the flip side, variables can also have a local scope, meaning they can only be accessed within the function or the block in which they were declared. This brings us to function scope and block scope. When a variable is declared inside a function, it has a function scope. It can only be accessed within the function where it was declared. So if we have let function var is equal to I am a function variable, we can do console log function variable. Let's remove the global variable just so we don't print that many things. So let's remove that. So we have a function variable, I am a function variable, and then we print it. Now let's run the program. And you will see I am a function variable. But if we now try to do console.log function variable and then run the program, you will see an error. Let me move this up. Function variable is not defined. So trying to log function variable outside the function results in an error because it doesn't exist in this scope. When you declare a variable inside a function, it only has a function scope, so you can only use it inside that specific function. Variables declared with let and const within a block, which means inside an if, while, or really anywhere between curly braces, have a block scope, meaning they can only be accessed within that block. So let's remove this code and let's declare a variable called age that is equal to 20. And then let's have if age is greater than 15, let's do let block variable is equal to I am a block variable. And then console log block variable and then run the program. Node index.js. And you will see I am a block variable. So as I said, any variable that's inside curly braces is considered a block variable. So if we try to do console.log block variable outside the scope, so outside the block, and then run the program, you will see again an error because block variable is not defined. Okay, so now we covered the scope, but what happens when two variables have the same name? In JavaScript, it's possible to declare a local variable with the same name as a global variable. But what happens then? Let's explore this scenario. So let's remove this code and let's have a variable message equal to hello world. And then a function show message where we also declare the variable message, so it's the same name, that is equal to hello JavaScript. And then let's print the message inside the function and outside the function. Let me fix that. And let's run the program. What do you think will be printed on the screen? Right now, it's only hello world because we access the global variable. Remember, we cannot access a function scope variable like this message variable. But what happens if we also print or call the show message function node index.js and hello JavaScript, hello world? That's because here we have two variables named message. One is global and the other one is local to the show message function. When we call the function, it displays the local variable's value, which is this one. When we log message outside the function, it displays the global variable's value, which is this one. If we also have a block variable like if true, which is always executed, and then have let message equal to block variable, and then console.log message, what do you think will happen? So first of all, the show message function will be called. We declare a message variable and then execute this code. Let message equal block variable, console log message. We have a block variable and this is the one that will be printed. After that, we print the message again. We do not have access to this message variable, but we do have access to this message variable, which is the function scope. So afterwards, the hello JavaScript message will be printed. And after we call the function, we also print the global message variable. So let's test that. And you will see block variable, hello JavaScript, and hello world. Now let's see what happens when two properties in an object have the same name. Let me remove this code and let's declare a student variable equal to name Alice. And then let's have a function display function. Let's declare a variable called name equal to Bob. And then let's try to print the name, which is this one, and this.name, which is the student object's name. So console log this.name and console log name. And then we have to call student.display and run the program. And you will see Alice and Bob, because within the display method, we have a local variable name, this one, and the property of student also called name. When we call this.name, it refers to the name property of the student object, which is Alice. But when we use the name variable, it refers to the local variable, which is Bob. So whenever you want to use the property of an object, you have to use the this keyword. Now, in the world of JavaScript, we have modules, which are basically files. And each module has its own scope. Any variable declared in a module is local to the module and cannot be accessed outside the module unless it's exported. So let's create a file called mymodule.js. And inside the file, let's declare a variable like let module variable equal to I am a variable from mymodule.js. Now, we cannot use this variable inside the index.js file because the variable is private to this file. So let's go to index.js and let me show you that. So if we try to print console log module variable and then run the program, you will see an error. Module var is not defined. But if we export the variable, so doing export module variable, and then import it in the index.js file. So before we print it, we do import module variable from mymodule. You need to learn the syntax. So in the mymodule file, we do export mymodule between curly braces, and in the index.js file, we do import module var from mymodule. The dot refers to the current directory, and then we have mymodule. So let's try to run the program now. And you will still see an error. Cannot use import statement outside the module. And that is because we are trying to use an ES6 module syntax using import and export keywords in a file that Node.js doesn't recognize as a module. By default, Node.js treats files as CommonJS modules, which use require and module.exports instead of import and export keywords. So to resolve this issue, we have two options. Either convert our files to CommonJS syntax and then use require, or keep the ES6 syntax and have a module configuration. So let's do that. Let's do npm init-y. And you will see a package.json file that is created. You will see the name of the project, the version, some empty description, the main file, which is index.js, and some other options. What we have to do is set the type, and you will see two values, CommonJS, this is the default value, and module. Set it to module, save the package.json file, which is the configuration file, and then what we have to do is rename these two files. So instead of index.js, we will have index.mjs and mymodule.mjs. Update imports from mymodule.mjs, yes. And you will see that instead of mymodule, it is now mymodule.mjs. Okay, save the file. And now if we try to run index.mjs, so it's not index.js now, you'll see I am a variable from mymodule.js. So remember, if you are trying to run your JavaScript programs using Node, you have to set the module type and then have the MJS extension. Going back to our topic, scope is a critical concept in JavaScript that determines where variables, functions, and objects can be accessed. Understanding how scope works will help you manage your variables effectively, avoid potential conflicts, and write more maintainable code. Remember, practice makes perfect, so make sure you experiment with what you've learned today.